Thank you for listening. Welcome back. So I wanted to bring my wife to this episode so that you can hear her out. And it's funny that I say bring her because I came to her really. This is her zone here. It's our beautiful home. So I was talking to her the other day. We were on our way to, I think, church or something like that. We're having a conversation in the car. And so, funny enough, just to give you a quick background. So my wife is was in the business a little bit before me. I think maybe like 6 months or something like that. In 2016, when I was a brand new salesperson, I just got here from Spain, and I was just in the field selling stuff, just randomly trying to protect my attitude and everything like that. And Monica was like an experienced trainer at the time, and that's actually how we met. I don't recommend that you date your trainer, but that was my story. So it's cool because there was an opportunity for a client that we were launching, like we were working with Walmart for the first time. It's a big client, whatever. And Monica was the person that would fly across the country to make sure Walmart would get launched properly. And Walmart, it was our turn. It was our city, which it was San Antonio. So I was like the rep selected to work to make sure Walmart would go well and continue it locally. So she would fly in to make sure for the first 2 weeks I didn't do anything stupid. And then I would continue with Walmart. And we did. And so it was great. But she was the first person really in the field to ever challenge me. Maybe not the first, but to really, really challenge me and to train me to what I think was the next level of like really sales training one-on-one. Not joking. I know this sounds funny, but to the point that I just fell in love. I was like, wow, I really want to be with her. Like I felt so much growth by being with her 8 to 12 hours a day. And so crazy good at sales. And I would even argue that now, that not necessarily so good at sales, but she's such a hard work ethic, and she was so prepared that if it would have been sales or if it would have been anything else, I think she would have just been super good. And anyway, we're driving the other day, and so anyway, she was a sales trainer, eventually trained me so good that I kept doing the work, and now she doesn't have a job. She's expecting our second baby, which is great. And but she still has the mindset, and she still has a big role influencing our circle, especially the ladies and men too. Has a big role because she went through those maybe 3, 4, 5 years of just sales rejection, and she was really, really, really good. And the other day she was like spitting bars in the car, and I was like, man, like you need to say this to an audience, because I think so many people talk about the benefit of sales, but they necessarily are not doing it yet. You're not doing it anymore. But I think that when you went through it, like there's some experiences that you can't unlearn, right? And like you still carry it with you. You still think back to the field. You've gone door to door. You've sold stuff inside of stores. So do you mind rolling a little bit through about that, about overall your experience in sales, and we can kind of go back
Yeah. So originally I didn't have experience in sales. I was working in the restaurant industry when I came across the opportunity. And I remember in the interview process when they were showing me like what the work was going to look like, I remember thinking, okay, so you just talk to these people and then I'm like never going to see them again. Like that seems pretty easy. In comparison, I guess, to the time that I was investing in serving, where I would sometimes spend an hour, maybe an hour and a half with people.
Right.
So I was excited about that. I was also excited to make money because I needed a lot of money. And I think what I realized with my trainer at the time, who was actually the owner, he came into the field with me and was training me in sales. He just gave me the right example from the very beginning, and I just copied it. Copy and pasted. And he would give me adjustments every now and then. And what I ended up realizing was, I think a lot of people don't like sales because it's really gonna bring out your weaknesses. And I think that's where people shy away from it because they're scared to face like the things that they're not good at. And at the time in my life, I was in a position where I needed so much financial income that like my emotions did not matter at the moment. And I almost started to really like the field because it was an escape for me, the sales. It was almost like a game. So a lot of people, when they have adversity, I think they run away from things. And for me at the time, what I enjoyed, I guess, it was that it was making me work on the things that I was not good at. And it was the only thing that I had control of. So, like your attitude, right? Whatever you're thinking about, that's one thing that you have control over. What you eat had a lot to do with it too. What I was doing before I was waking up. So I was learning all this through this management program, and I heard somebody speaking that you didn't necessarily have to love it, but you did have to respect it. And
So you don't have to love sales, but you have to respect it.
yeah, you have to respect what the sales is going to teach you and what you're going to gain from it. And I think I took that to heart because I was having such a hard time at home with just family and things that were going on that I was literally using sales as an escape. And I had such a fun time because it was the only thing that I had complete control of in terms of like my environment, what type of people I talked to. Like if somebody was just being negative, I could just walk away from them, and it didn't hurt my feelings. Um, and then I really started to enjoy once I got good at it, and I started to be able to be consistent in sales in any product that I had. Then I started to really enjoy teaching it to other people because I could see them changing. I could see their mind actually working from what they thought maybe like was like a perceived connotation of what sales was like. A lot of people were always scared of sales. And once they started to get better at it, confidence was boosted. And when you can control how much income you make through sales,
Yeah.
that's a skill set that will never be taken away from you. And that skill set, you can apply that skill set in so many areas of life that you literally have control of your income, of your time, and of everything else that really you can do. So I think that's where my journey of really enjoying it started.
That's awesome. So, okay, so if you can talk a little bit about, so you still have a coaching role with a lot of ladies in your life and a
Yeah.
lot of people, younger and older than you and your same age. So what do you notice on when you're talking to them and you realize some of them, they didn't go through that season of having to, like you said, you needed money, so you had to sell,
Right.
and you ended up enjoying it because you realize, well, actually I can control my paycheck since I'm good at it.
Yep.
So now you talk to people sometimes that are bringing problems up to you or situations in their life, but they never had that. And so it's harder to relate because they didn't. What are your thoughts on that? Like now that you see like how it's helping you years later, you see people that didn't go through it. How do you think it helped you?
There's really no nice way to say this. I was thinking about how to say this nicely, but when what I realize is a lot of the times when people don't go through some sort of sales experience, they're very mentally weak. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I mean that in the essence of, let's just take something as simple as the military, right? They send you off to a boot camp, right? And we all know that boot camp is not going to be easy,
Yeah.
right? And not everybody makes it through the boot camp, right? Only a few that get through the boot camp get selected into whatever branch of military that they're going to serve in. Now, do we want people to go through an easy boot camp?
No.
No, because then you're going to have really low caliber people that are going to go into these branches that are meant to protect, right? So I think it's the same concept with sales. The difference is that the boot camp is your mind, like being able to really control your thoughts, being able to really control your emotions. And in the beginning, it's really you tracking what you're actually thinking, what you're actually feeling in the moment, and verbally vocalizing that. Because the more that you try to ignore it, or the more that you try to push away a thought or an emotion that comes up, the less times you have to properly address that emotion or that thought.
What are some problems you think people deal with that it's harder for them than for you because they didn't go through so much rejection in sales? Or, yeah, let's leave it at that. What do you think are some problems people deal with, or do they even solve their problems differently because they didn't go through that versus you? When you're analyzing a problem and you're like, well, Well, just do it 100 times again. So that way, because that's sales, right?
Right.
When you find a person that didn't go through it, like, how do you deal with that?
The most common thing that I see people go through is themselves. It's literally the biggest obstacle.
What do you mean?
So, for example, like, oh, well, I can't do this, or I'm just a shy person, or I've never been in this role. I don't like sales. I'm never going to be good at sales. It's really themselves. Like, whatever they keep repeating to themselves verbally and thought wise is going to be what dictates their mind, which then their mind dictates their actions. So when people don't sell, that's the actual root. They just have like a weak mind of being able to compartmentalize and be like, hey, look, and maybe my situation, this is going to be drastic, but in my situation, there was literally a life that was in my hands while I was going through sales. So I didn't have time to have like a thought or an emotion potentially influence my results because my income was so heavily dependent like on a life. And I used to use that scenario with people. I'm like, okay, hey, look, if there was somebody that you really loved and they were taken hostage, and like this person that you love calls you and tells you that somebody in this, at the time we were in retail, like if somebody in this store has like the key or the address of where this person is, like how aggressively do you think you would be talking to people? And of course they would say every time, well, like to every single person. I'm like, okay, so then why does it take such a drastic scenario for you to actually execute what you already know you can do?
That's interesting. And do you think you apply that mindset to other problems or other situations in life that have nothing to do with sales?
100%.
Like what?
I think first and foremost, parenthood. Like it's definitely a whole new journey when you've never been a parent.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm sure you know. You go through you're gonna go through moments where you're gonna be challenged, like, am I being a good parent? You're gonna start to see maybe people doing things differently. You're gonna have that inner voice that maybe you have a little bit of doubt of, am I raising my child the right way? Because it's not like you can, you know, maybe not have a sale and then bounce back the next day. Like they're like you're talking about someone's life. You're raising an adult. So you're constantly thinking like, am I doing this the best way possible? And I think about going back to the mindset, like if you can just execute preparation, which is one thing that I did a lot before I went into my sales roles. I would always wake up probably 2 to 3 hours beforehand, and I always started my day with this 32-minute video from Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he would go through, I think it was the five rules, maybe 8 rules. I'll have to look up the video on YouTube to see what the name is, but that's the first thing that I would play the minute that I would wake up, because I wanted to prep my mind. I wanted to be in full control of what I was thinking before I went into anything. And then I would make sure that I did some sort of physical activity because I didn't want to be just waking up when I was about to hit sales. Like I wanted to already be mentally awakened, physically awakened, and then I would also spend time, this is just my personal journey, I would also spend time in prayer or meditation.
That's interesting. So now you're going into preparation, and obviously you would say that that helped a lot. So do you feel like you use the same level of preparation when you're like now fronting new parts of your life? So, like you said, raising children. Yeah. Do you like do that, and you're almost thinking about tomorrow I got this, so today I'm preparing, and do you use the same?
Yeah.
So how much time you think you spend preparing for something you really care for?
Probably 2 to 3 hours beforehand. So, for example, now we're having a second one, right? We have a second baby on the way. And I started thinking, well, my original schedule of being able to do things when our first son was asleep wasn't necessarily going to be a guarantee when the second baby came. So I needed to make adjustments now, before the baby came, to just make sure that I was mentally and emotionally and physically prepared when this baby came. I would be able to quickly say, oh, you know what? Well, like I already did this once, meaning been waking up at about 5 a.m., do a prayer, do my meditation, and then we work out. And then I'll do my spiritual time, my quiet time. And then I'll read a book, and then I have breakfast. So now I personally have taken care of myself first before now I have to spend the next 12 to 18 hours with our son.
That's what I was going to bring up. Is that you're preparing now, and that's what I think it's so valuable. It's you're 3 months away from next baby.
Yep.
We are, I should say, but
More me.
for, like more like physically for you for sure, and but you're preparing now. Like
Yeah.
you're getting your body used to now, so that because that's how important you think it is, and you learned this from selling.
Yeah, because I learned that if you can be prepared for the adversity before the adversity hits you, whether it be the rejection of the no or
And
somebody returning something.
yeah, and so that's crazy. So just for everybody that doesn't fully get it, so she's basically now 3 months away, or it started maybe 5 or 6, 2 or 3 months ago. So 6 months before she has a new baby. For anybody that's not a parent, the new baby requires a lot of uncertainty on when you sleep. You're not sure, and now we have another baby that require another a 2-year-old, 3-year-old son that requires also like his schedule might be off. So she knows she's gonna not be sure when to sleep. Baby might be an angel and sleep really well at the
Yeah.
beginning, or might not, and we don't know that. So she realizes I'm not probably gonna not sleep as much or have time to work out. So 6 months before the second baby comes, where now everything's good, our son sleeps mostly through the night very
Yeah.
well. She's like interrupting that and waking up at 5 so that she can do her work. Basically, so she can have her own, quality time alone, which she needs, doing her workout, doing whatever she chooses to do. So when this next baby comes over, if she has to interrupt her day or started really early or sleep less, she's used to that. And I think that's huge. Like you're gonna walk into baby number 2 really prepared. So you're preparing 6 months, 5 months ahead of something super important. Probably you're preparing days, weeks ahead for really anything that's important. So when people don't have that, what do you think happens to like where like now you're talking to somebody and they're like going into a new job, boom, no preparation, or they're going into sales and they didn't do and I'm not saying people need to do 2-3 hours of preparing every day for anything, but if people didn't prepare their mind and now they have a new problem or a new need, what do you think happens to them? Like what reactions are you seeing in people when they just like immediately go into the problem and they didn't know?
Okay. So I just had these memories of people when people would come into, I would be a sales trainer, right? So when people would come and train with me, the first thing I would ask them was like, hey, like, did you read anything about the product that you're selling? And they would a lot of times tell me no. So I would be like, then there's really no point in you being here. So I would send them home. Because like if someone is not taking the time to prepare, they're going to be very reactive, which is good. When in sales, like when you become very reactive, it's going to slow down your ability to learn. So I started learning how to become a better trainer. I was like, hey, like I need to prepare these people better. So I would tell them like, hey, before they would come into sales, I'd be like, I expect you to have reviewed the product, reviewed the 5 steps that we use in sales, and have those ready by the time that you and I work together, because this will allow me to fully be able to teach you how to actually make income quicker. And
Yeah.
we all need income fast. So when I started becoming a better trainer, then I started being able to prepare people faster, which meant that when I had somebody that came into a sales role and I was training them, because they were prepared with the product, I didn't have to spend 8 hours of that day teaching them what the product did because they already knew it.
Right.
And that allowed me to reduce their learning curve, which allowed me to help them reduce their sense of reacting and not liking sales. Because now if somebody has all these reactions in sales, they're not going to like it, they're not going to have a good experience, and now they're not necessarily going to be very excited to come back and do it again the next day. Which means that for a sales trainer, we didn't properly build confidence in the person because we didn't prepare them properly. So just like in life, when you see people going through all these life scenarios, it's like it's not necessarily life that's happening to you. It's just you're being reactive because you didn't take the time to prepare for X, Y, and Z beforehand. So now you're just dealing with the aftermath of your lack of preparation. And now it's becoming emotional. And because you weren't able to take control about it in your life prior to it. So people just become super reactive over and over and over again.
That's awesome. Okay, that's pretty good. Do you like if somebody's in their first few jobs and whatever, and they have the mental state, they have the opportunity? Like, do you recommend people learning sales? Do you think it's a good thing?
100%.
That's cool.
It's a skill set that once you learn, nobody can take that away from you ever again. And you can't put a price to the skill set of sales. Like, I went to college, I majored, I got my degree, but nothing that I learned, and this is not downplaying college, but like nothing that I learned in a university that was not cheap, thank God I had a scholarship, none of it was or probably will ever be as such close life experience to learning sales.
Yeah, that's downplaying college a little bit.
College is great, don't
But
get
it's
me
okay.
wrong. I learned a lot, but I think the reality of it is what I've applied through my whole life more now than what I learned in school is sales. Everything that I learned through sales.
And just so you know, if you didn't know this, like I recently saw this on some of the top schools like Harvard and stuff like that. Like they're actually even schools now, or they're saying like, hey, we'll help you get experience to our students because companies don't value so much the resume, or they don't value so much the schooling, but they value the experience. So now even schools, they're starting to like the best schools are starting to turn around and make their degrees to where it's experience based, not diploma based. So it's kind of catching up, which is good news because it is true. People spend all these years in school and then they go out and then information's 4 years outdated. Like nobody learned AI in school when we went to school, and now that's what you need to do to have like a copywriting job or to have like most jobs, even sales. So I think that's cool. Okay, if you have to say, and then we're just to kind of wrap it up, if you had to say maybe the top 3 to 4 or 5 skills that you're so glad you have because that you learned in the field selling that you still use today, what would you say?
Attitude, maintaining a positive attitude, rejection, appreciating rejection. The other one,
Having a great
urgency.
attitude, understanding rejection, speed.
Speed, urgency, and adjust.
Just adjusting.
Yep. Something's not working, you got to change it.
That's cool. It's funny that sales is that, right? Like you have to like do 100 repetitions or 1,000, but you can't just bang your head against the wall. You have to think and adjust as well.
Yeah, because you can't do the same thing 100 times without changing anything.
Cool.
I think the other thing that you were talking about when you're talking about schools now getting more into experience, there's not a single business out there that does not need sales. So like any business, doesn't matter what it is always going to rely on sales. So you will be such an asset anywhere you go if you can learn the skill set of sales.
Or marry a sales trainer like me.
Yep. I sold you pretty good.
You got me. You got me. And that's awesome, man. Thank you, lover. Any other thoughts or anything that you want to say?
No, I mean, I think if you're looking into sales and you're not really sure about it, I would really recommend you to do it. You know, just jump off the diving board, quite literally, and just dive into it. I think the one thing you always want to look at is your trainer. Like, what's the quality of the trainer that you're having? Because if your trainer is not producing the sales that need to be generated or whatever the quota or the goal is, chances are you're probably not going to be able to learn a lot from the person. So always check the fruit of your trainer. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, and then probably there's a portion of the audience that's probably wondering, like, well, did you marry your best trainee? Just kidding.
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, I think you did too. Just kidding. I think it's funny. I've never, quite seriously, I've never seen anyone so good at training, and of course, it doesn't have much to do actually with the fact that I also liked her, but it was fun. It was a fun thing to see because I remember being on calls literally until 2 hours past my shift, and I would have to be analyzing. Like I remember one time being in my car analyzing you taught me this thing. Instead of your step 7, like instead of like what you want in life, like what can you not afford to happen if you stay the same? You kind of flipped it. I have a video on YouTube called Flip Your Step 7 that has a lot of views because it was that. It's like sometimes you just got to realize like, okay, what crap is going to happen in your life if nothing changes? Like if you keep doing what you're doing, make the money you're making,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? And for me at the time, the pain point really was, well, my sister's going to have nothing. And so then, you know, so now of course it would change, but I think that's something I learned from you. And I remember being on a call one time with you and I had an okay day, but you would like not let me get off the phone. It was, I was selling hair straighteners and I could not get off the phone. And you were like, let's go through the 8 steps. And I'm like, it's 8 steps that we're analyzing. I'm going through the 7th one. And I'm like, nothing's wrong with the 7th one. And step 8 is take control. I totally took control. So I was like, we're done. Like we had agreed the first 6 were fine. So I was like, there's nothing wrong. I just had a day worth less sales. That's it. And then on step 7, she stopped me and started and pulled, even if it was not true for that specific day, irrelevant to that. You pulled like a pain point out of me because you made me focus on where I was going if I didn't focus on fixing it versus, focusing on dream boards and mansions and cars.
Yeah.
So.
And I think another part of being good at sales or just learning a skill set in general is that the coachability, right? Like, are you willing to be vulnerable and be transparent to get proper coaching on whatever it is that needs to get adjusted? And that definitely was something that you had as a trainee of mine. You were always willing to hear it and then apply it, because you can have a great trainer who is setting the pace and who is killing sales, but if you're not willing to open up and be coachable and take the feedback, then there's really nothing more that can be done for you.
Yeah. And you're right, I did do it well because you were the trainer, I ultimately sold you into spending your whole life with me. So then I made the ultimate sale.
You did. You did.
So that was good.
Good job.
Good job. She's enjoying it. So anyway, hopefully that helps. I think my wife is a great example, and hopefully you took something from it, and we'll see you at the next one.